All right, so my car going over bumps has a really bad squeak, and I've changed the shock absorber. Everything else looks fine. I took off the dirt protector shield, and this is what I found. A trailing arm bushing has a collar, a metal collar that it sits on. Mine was destroyed. So what happens is this sits in the front of your wheel assembly and basically takes all the abuse up front, and the bushings end up wearing out and giving out, and that causes a really bad squeak. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to replace this by taking out the trailing arm and the whole wheel assembly and pushing in a PowerFlex bushing. I bought a new bushing, but I ended up not buying the tool and opting out of that $400 tool, and I tried to press this in with a hydraulic press, and I ended up pinching the bushing and making it pretty lopsided. So I couldn't use this, and once I was doing it, I kind of realized that this probably isn't the best fix without that tool. I don't know if you can even do it without that tool, because it's such a perfect fitting. So I went with the PowerFlex from FCP Euro, and I didn't even have to use a press. I put it all in with my hand. So yeah, but if your Volvo is making a really heavy squeak down the road coming from the rear end, almost sounds like it's like your back door, it's most likely the trailing arm bushing, and I will show you how to replace that. So watch and learn. These parts are trash. All right, so I'm going to be showing you how to do a trailing arm bushing on a 2008 Volvo XC70. I found some videos on how to do some S60s, some Fords, but I've never had a good video of someone doing an XC70. So I am going to take the trailing arm off. What I did last time was I bought some aftermarket trailing arms some OE trailing arm bushings, and that didn't go very well. I don't have the press, so I am putting on these PowerFlex trailing arm bushings. They look really nice. Seems a lot easier if you don't want to buy a $500 tool. So to start this whole process, you're going to need to pop your caliper off. You're gonna have to pop these two bolts off. This holds your rotor on, this bolt does. This holds your axle in place. And I don't know what size this is. It looks like it's a T50. A T50. Followed by what I think is a 13. Yeah, a 13. You got 2 more 13s to get the caliper off, and then you have 2 15s to get the caliper mount off. But I'll go in more depth once I get this assembly off, and we'll come back. So first things first, take the rotor off, take the caliper off, set it to the side. I already have my wires disconnected because I tried this already. So to get the bracket off, it's 2 15s. They go here and up here. I couldn't squeeze a ratchet into them, so I went with just a standard wrench. Once you get those bolts off, this comes free pretty easily, and then your rotor will come with it. All right, so the next step is going to be to take your shock absorber, the bottom bolt off, which is an 18, and then take one of your links, just break the bottom bolt off of it, which that's a 15, and then I had to crack this bolt just a little bit just to be able to move that out of the way. And then you're going to take off this bolt, which it is another, I think, your swing arm link. I'm not sure what the part is called, but you pop that off. This bracket that goes to your brake is attached also to it. You can disconnect your ABS, and then after that I'm going to put a jack under my spring just to make sure that it doesn't pop loose. But once we take off this bolt, and yeah, once we take off those 2 bolts, this bolt, and the bottom of your shock absorber, will basically be ready to take off the front bolts on your trailing arm, put a jack underneath your spring, and then you can take off your link and the bottom bolt, which would be the last bolt holding on your trailing arm. All right, I'll stop here and show you what's going on. So this is one of your links. It slides into there, pretty easy to get out. Your shock absorber is an 18 millimeter bolt going into here, and then I already have this out because when I took them apart, it just fell out, and then I got a replacement, and I went to put it in a press and I destroyed it. So I didn't have the tool for this. I don't think you want to try it without the tool. I think you really want the tool, just because this gets so much scale on it. You really have to do a lot of sanding in order to get it off. We basically have the trailing arm close to being free. We need to take this bolt fully off, take your link off, and then take the bottom bolt for your spring off. So I got my end link off, And that's a 15 millimeter with an Allen key that goes into it. I'm taking off the last bolt, and then I should be able to take my trailing arm completely off. The other thing is I've already done this not even a week ago, so all these bolts are not seized up already. Oh. All right. Voila. Your axle, when you put it back in, just kind of line that up and just try and make sure that your caliper isn't dangling, stretching on any of these cords. So we're in good shape. Also, I'm not sure if this spring's got a lot of tension on it, but I like to put a jack under it just because I don't want that thing to drop too far, and I know right where it's at, it's not moved, so when I go and put everything back together, it stays right where it's at. The next step is to take your PowerFlex bushing, I don't know, call it a coupling, and they send you with some pretty good instructions. Basically says, gives you the trailing arm inside and outside of the car, and then it shows you part A, which is the thick part, goes towards the inside of the car. So this is my left trailing arm. The flat section is the inside of your car. So I'm taking this big section and I'm pushing it through. I'm gonna take a little bit of grease and kind of grease it up. They send you, PowerFlex sends you with a packet of grease. Their specialty grease. And we're just gonna put a little bit on here. Save some because you have two sides to do. And you want your notch to line up with the notch on your trailing arm. Let's see if I can just push this thing through. Cool. That wasn't too hard. I mean, it's gonna take some force to get it through. So I think your best bet is a press of some kind. I doubt the C-clamp's gonna really work that well, but I think I'll give it a try off camera. But yeah, that went in pretty easily. Put some lube on the outside and push it in. Pretty simple, nothing to it. Okay, so I previously said to align it to the indent, and they say to align it to this tab. But if I'm right, the bushing goes to the tab. It goes to the tab right here. So your bushing will sit like that, not like that, like this. So I was actually able to push this bushing through. I basically greased it. I pushed it in and kind of twisted it to get this front lip inside. And then once I got enough, I grabbed a wrench, and I just kind of went forward and backward and forward and backwards and it actually pushed through, which I was kind of surprised. So that's done, and I'm gonna put this back together. I kind of want to show you how to do this, struggle and all. You basically are putting the trailing arm on into the axle and trying to get this bolt in at the same time. It is kind of a struggle, but the only way to do it without paying a bunch of extra money is to do it yourself. So I got my bolt ready, and I'm going to try and get this axle in. Actually get that bolt to hold before I get the axle fully in. Okay. Also going to put the top arm bolt in just to take pressure off of all the parts. So oh, maybe. Okay. So yeah, it is a bit of a pain, but it's in. That's all you can ask for. Before you go and get your bracket put on, you need to put in these bolts that go right into this hole so that you can attach to your brake line. I highly recommend getting these parts because I got them really quickly and they seem to be some pretty high quality parts. So this is kind of a struggle. Not too bad, not so bad. So yeah, get that in there and then bolt it on before you attach anything else. So I'll get that bolted on and we'll go from there. This is a 13. Okay. It's a little tough getting that Allen wrench in there. Next, you have two 18 bolts. Just slide up in there. This bolt was a little tricky to get in, just because everything needs to be basically put back together before you can get these ones in. But you know, you got to put your brake line back on the clip, put this bracket back on. I put this bolt on first and this bolt on last, but everything's snug. I wouldn't recommend tightening everything. I would kind of hold off and wait until you can get everything put on before you start tightening things up to torque specs. So basically, now that I got your link is on, your shock bolt is on, you got a, I'm gonna call it a swing arm bolt, I'm not sure what it is, that's on with the bracket for your caliper is on, and then you have your shock absorber bolt, which is on, that's right here, and then you have another swing arm bolt on. None of them are tightened down all the way, they're all snug fit. I'm guessing you could tighten them all to torque before you put your caliper and your rotor back on, but I don't think you need to. You can probably put everything back on and then tighten everything down, but I think I'm going to tighten all this to torque specs. So again, you're basically just reverse engineering everything. So clip this in, that's your ABS, and then you got your bracket, the two 15s, and then you got two 13s to get your caliper back on. Sometimes you might have to take a C-clamp and compress your caliper piston in just so you can get it over your brake pads, but pretty simple. You got your 13 bolt for your axle, and then you got just the regular T50 bolt to hold your rotor on. Make sure your axle spins with your rotor, but make sure everything's tightened up. Linkage, shock bolt, another link, and then your shock absorber. I'm going to take some zip ties and kind of zip tie my cable back in, just so it's riding in the proper spots. But yeah, we are pretty much all done here on this side. You got, I basically want to get, you know, just want to get this secured along with my brake line. So just get that all zip tied up, because these pins break super easily. So the few things I didn't show you were me pressing that bushing in on the trailing arm. So I'm going to try and get a video of me doing that. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing on both sides. I'm going to show how to push these in with your own hands. We got this, the factory says the thick side goes on the inside of the car, so I'm going to be pushing in. They go in relatively easy. I'm going to put just a small amount of lube on there. Just around the rim, just to get it to push in easier. Next, the notch on this is going to go around your brake hose bracket. So we're gonna put it in there, and I put both hands against it, put one end in, and then snap the other end. Not too bad. So the next part is a little harder. This is the bushing, and I believe you're going to be pushing that the same way you push the other one. So I'm going to grab the rest of this lube, and I'm going to use the rest of it. I probably could have used more on the first one. I'll squeeze it in my fingers. Get it all the way around. Since I have extra, I'm just gonna put it on here. Might as well use it. All right. This one requires a little bit of persuasion. So the flat part is going to line up with the notch, the indent on the trailing arm. And you can spin it once you get it in, but for me it was kind of tough just to get the first part in. Now when you get the first part in, boom, and then you can move it because you got a bunch of lube on there, and that's pretty solid. And that's it, man. That's how you do it with no press and just a little bit of brute strength. It's upside down right now, but yeah, it ended up working out pretty well. Now we just got to go reinstall, and we should be all set. This is a follow-up video for the trailing arm bushing that I installed on my Volvo. I installed those bushings in July, and it is now January, so a little over 6 months ago I put those in, and they made a world of difference. Immediately driving down the road, there's zero squeak. Haven't heard any squeak since. I think that they held up pretty well, and I'm sure they're gonna hold up for a lot longer than 6 months. So overall, you know, if you're a little bit mechanically inclined, it's really not that hard of a job. You don't need any special tools. You could get away with a press, but for the most part it was pretty simple. Definitely was a little gruesome, you know, it was a lot of work, especially for me because I messed up and bought some factory bushings and messed them all up. So then I had to get aftermarket bushings and wait, and I had to put my car back together, wait for the parts, and then go back in and take them apart again. So I basically did it twice. If I ever have to do it again, I'm sure I'll be pretty great at it. So it's gonna be kind of a patchy video just because I filmed it all on my phone, but you know, there isn't that much information out there, and there isn't a really good video out there of somebody doing it on that car. So if you have an 08 XC70, this is the video to watch. So have a good one. Hope you enjoy it.